Welcome to this video coverage for round 2 of the Sinquefield Cup, currently held in the US in St. Louis. We have a very fighting round 2, 3 interesting games. It's a little bit tricky to do it in the format of 2 brief ones, one longer coverage of one game. So I'm going to do 3 games and just be brief about them, but try to cover the main points. Let's start with Nakamura Carlsen. Nakamura is playing 1e4, and we get the Ruy Lopez, very much to be expected. However, Carlsen's third move now is a surprise. His main choice here, of course, is a6, playing normally the Briar variation along one of the long main lines, or he plays knight f6 for the Berlin, but now he goes for g6, an interesting sideline that is really never been on the height of fashion, a move that has been played a lot by Vasily Smyslov, former world champion. And an interesting choice. Black's main idea is to play, well, the fianchetto obviously, and then maybe knight to e7 and castles d6, this kind of setup. An interesting line. I always liked the idea, but what I never liked, just to show my personal view on this, is this variation, where black must play bishop e7, and this sort of does not really fit within things. But okay, let's say this is simply a different approach for white. Nakamura castles, bishop g7, c3. All this is very standard. d6, d4, bishop d7. This position is a well-known one that can arise also via different move orders, like a6 on move 3, like here a6, a6, bishop a4, d6. White can now keep the central tension with a normal move like, let's say, rook e1, something like that. Or he can play d5, and this is what Nakamura did. After this, we transpose to a pawn structure that is very well known from the King's Indian. White has this pawn wedge, and black has the f5 counterplay. He has to play h6 first. You don't want to play this right away, as this is a terribly weak spot on e6. So h6, knight c3, f5. Yeah, black now gets in f5 really quickly. In the King's Indian, he has to move the f6 knight, then play f5. This is all a bit sped up now. The problem, strategically speaking, is that black does not have a light squared bishop, which sometimes can be a problem, especially if we consider, let's say for example, we look at this. If black now decides to play it in a typically King's Indian fashion, closing up the queen side, the king side with f4, then the lack of the light squared bishop can be a big problem. Black will advance here, white play h3, and white will try to block this attack on a light square. Very often black needs the light squared bishop to break through, and this piece is not on the board anymore. Normally it is believed to be a huge achievement for white to have this bishop traded. So all this is strategically very risky for black. And Carlsen is not closing the center, the king side, with f4. He's playing c6, getting for counterplay. I guess this is a wise choice, especially considering that if we look at this, Nakamura now captured. Black is a little bit better in development. He's got his pieces out, and he has got this outpost on d4. So for this slightly weak bishop here, bad bishop, he has some compensation, the knight on d4, and he's got some active possibilities. Sometimes even b5 comes to mind, or play on the c file. In the game, Nakamura quickly went to exchange this piece. And I think this is a very wise decision. You cannot keep this knight on d4 all the time. Carlsen now finds a very dynamic response to that. Black also could have played something less enterprising here. but this is a good choice. The idea is to put this knight on f4, obviously. So the direct idea is to take, play knight f4. So he captured on d4, and now e takes f5. And at first you think, oh well, is knight f5, was knight h5 maybe a mistake? If black now recaptures with a piece, queen for example, there is g4 coming. And this is not really what you want as black. Note that this kind of thing leaves black in huge trouble. The knight, if you move the knight here, there is this funny move. And black is in absolutely bad shape. At the end of all, here, if we continue this till the end, the d6 pawn is dropping. This all looks terribly shaky if you consider the piece captures. So what was his idea? He just played knight f4, a very strong concept. This idea involves to put it on d3, very strong square, or after the white capture, this is not played by Nakamura, now to play rook f6 and rook g6. And this leads to a very strong initiative for black. Something that after, let's say, knight e4, rook g6, g3, rook c4, something that is simply very attractive for black. He's got those active pieces. The rook on c4 is also now activated, but mainly it's about those two. Bishop can also come to e5. So not a very attractive option. Nakamura plays f6. This is better, I think. Keeping the position more closed. Takes g3. Check. And now the knight gave a check here. We should also check knight d3, of course. This looks very obvious, but has a big drawback, knight e4. Yeah, not a big drawback, but this is a good move. After knight takes, check. takes, queen takes, we have a funny situation where the queen is double attacking two pieces. Yeah, and after, let's say, king g7, queen b2, rook c4, the position should be about equal. Maybe white is slightly better due to this pawn, but nothing nothing great. Carlsen's move is stronger. Knight h3, I think, here, and knight g5, intending to get the queen also into the mix. Yeah, now Nakamura is playing precisely. He plays queen to b1. That's a nice little move, attacking g6. Yeah, black needs to attend to that, and now he went queen to d3. The queen is not a very attractive blockader, but it's better to have something there than nothing. And the queen is also protecting important things here. Yeah, now Carlsen went bishop e5. Yeah, bishop e5 has a very direct idea. And exactly the idea that was played in the game. It is, however, very difficult for white to prevent it, and it's also difficult for black to suggest anything else. I'll show you what happens. Nakamura played rook a to e1, and now bishop takes g3 was played. Funny sacrifice. After h takes, queen check. h3 check, king g1 necessary. This is a unlucky idea. We have a perpetual check, and this happened in the game. Yeah, could it be avoided? I really don't think so. In this position we have a situation where black has this structural deficit with this double pawns. I mean, the d4 pawn is weak, and he needs to find some compensation for that. And this can only be by attacking on the king side. The strongest attacking idea is bishop e5, getting this bishop into the game, and white has no really sensible idea to avoid it. Otherwise, black's attack is getting too strong. Let's say if white tries something like that, just to also cover g3, black can take and just trade things. Let's say here, and he's got this counterplay against c4. Something like this is totally equal. I think the game as it went is a very correct draw. It's nothing nothing where you can blame any player for not having any fighting spirit. I mean, if you talk about modern top players, those two are probably the biggest fighters around. So a draw, simply probably the logical result of the whole thing. Okay, let's look at the next game now, and this is Caruana against Vachela Graf, MVL. Let's see, we have a Caruana advanced. This is in fact a slight surprise, because Vachela Graf's main defense against 1e4 is the Sicilian, especially the Najdorf, and he's not very well known for playing the Caruana. A bit of a weird decision, considering that Caruana has also an excellent record with the advanced Caruana and is known to be a very good theoretician. Yeah, and we get one of the main lines. Queen b6 or c5 and queen b6 is probably the sharpest response available to white's setup. So this what MVL is doing here is really a kind of show me attitude. Yeah, show me what you've got prepared. I'm better prepared than you. This is a kind of statement that this move is making. And Caruana quickly dashes out his moves, knight c3. This is the absolute main line here and the only critical move. It leaves b2 hanging. Black does not take it. What happens if he takes? Yeah, after this, white has an interesting choice, but the main, he can also play knight b5, but the main point here is queen to b1, which was a revelation when it was shown first. Interesting idea. Black now cannot take the knight. This is losing the house. And in fact, black is in slight trouble already. He can exchange, and now white has excellent compensation for the pawn. He will, most of the time, black will play c4 and just give up the pawn on b7. Something like that. After, let's say, these moves is terribly risky. Black has nothing developed and white is getting at black's position quickly. It's not lost or anything, but super dangerous. Yeah, knight c6 is what is played nowadays. Now, Castle simply ignoring everything and playing for development. Queen b2 and queen e1. It looks a bit strange maybe if you don't know the line, but all this has been played multiple times. There have been many games with this. I mean, not like dozens, but some. Bishop to b4 to this to set up the pin. Knight b5. Yeah, getting those ideas in the game. And black is playing bishop a5 to cover c7. Rook b1, attacking the queen. It only has one square, capturing the pawn. White is 2 pawns down. But it's clear that this position is extraordinarily sharp. White has mostly tried rook b3 here. I think only tried rook b3. But here Caruana plays a different move. He plays rook c1. This seems to be new. Queen b2. And now g4. Oh, this was quickly played. And it's clear when we are on move 15 that this is all part of Caruana's preparation. g4 is of course very, very sharp. White has a dangerous initiative in any case, even if he plays something like that, which is not the best move probably, but even something like that after knight a4 leads to a dangerous initiative. Even after the queen trade here, something like that is an excellent position for white. I mean, in terms of compensation, not in terms of like winning immediately or something. It is a very dangerous opening choice, and I really question Vachela Graf's choice here. After g4, he sank into thought and played bishop to g6. Bishop g6 certainly looks like the only move, but probably had to try to remember if he had analyzed it before. f4 was coming quickly again. Caruana said he remembered that he has analyzed it and thought it was good, but he couldn't remember exactly how it went down. But he still decided to play it immediately to irritate black a bit and just trying to give the impression that, okay, I know everything here, what are you doing? Yeah, and the big problem is to defend this is absolutely difficult. The computer wants to play or suggests as an alternative knight e7. This leads to a total mess, of course. Knight d6, king f8, f5. You see that bishop is trapped. This was the idea of f4 g4. And black can in fact make a piece sacrifice out of it. Something like that is in fact a very interesting position and a playable position, it seems. Difficult to work out over the board, however. This was interesting. I think, however, bishop e4 is not a bad move, what Vachier played. But, you know, it costs time. He spent 50 minutes and Caruana spent nothing and even played rook f2 immediately. Also note that while Vachier was taking his time, Caruana had time to remember his analysis. So this is very useful. So rook f2. And yeah, the idea obviously to attack the queen from the side and threaten something like bishop f3 or bishop d3. Yeah, it seems that the next move that MVL plays, this one, knight h6, is already losing. It's very difficult anyway to play. White has a strong initiative in any case. Yeah, what is best here? My comp gives queen b4 after some time. But I'm not claiming I analyzed this extensively. The position is simply super complicated. Queen f1 is a good reply, getting out of this pin and setting up now finally this check and the capture on e4. And something like that, for example, if we follow this line, is quite clearly a dangerous attack. Now, you know, this is ignored, and it seems that black cannot even take this. If he would take it, check. This is disastrous. Check, check coming, rook c7 coming, and the capture here. This is a totally lost position, amazingly. Black has absolutely no defense. Something like, let's say here, white takes, check. Takes. You need to give up the exchange. Check. And this is a devastating attack. Black still lacks his pieces, yeah? Those pieces are not in play. White's position is also open with the king, but there is no counterplay. A very, very dangerous position. King f8, another possibility. White will go here. Queen b4. Queen b4. And now something like this, even with queens traded, is just very dangerous for black. White has dangerous knights. He can enter possibly with his pieces. d7, c7 are squares at the moment covered, but this is obviously dangerous for black and I think very unattractive to play. I mean, I would never ever go for this position to be honest, especially against someone who might even have it prepared at home. Yeah, knight h6 is what he played, but it seems that he miscalculated the upcoming complications. Bishop d3 now is very strong. And yeah, black only has queen b4. It has no other square. Rook to b1. Yeah, and now we see the big problem. Where should the queen go? It went to c5. And after knight takes e4, we have a sort of double attack. The queen is attacked and the bishop is attacked. After this, queen a5. White, however, threatens knight d6, winning the queen. And this means that black is losing huge chunks of material. After knight takes e4, what black could do is to take on e1. But after knight c5, takes, this is also a terrible position. Black cannot afford to take here. After this, we have a double threat against the knight and knight c7. So he has to play probably castles or king e7, move like that. Let's say castles. Yeah, and then white, he's got a nice selection here, but he can just play a move like that, asking this knight what it is doing on h6, and then mob up the queen side. Terrible position. White is winning here. Yeah, he went for this, which is basically a piece down, but maybe he was hoping that he's got 2 pawns and can maybe stir up some trouble. But there is simply nothing. White only now needs to be a little bit cautious, not blundering anything. He's getting out of this pin so that the knight can move. And after
Check.
some more moves, e3 was lost. Yeah, after this Vachila Graf resigned the game. So an excellent start for Caruana, his second win. And Vachila Graf with this loss didn't have a very good start of this tournament. But I think it was really questionable to play into this opening that he, it seems is not a super expert in. And he stumbled right into one of Caruana's preparations. So in a way, it's a case of putting the hand into the lion's mouth, but also a little bit unlucky to run right into this thing. After g4, edge to f4, this position is super hard to defend in a practical game. Okay, so let's look at Aronian and Topalov as our final game to cover. We have Chevanenko Slav, a line that Topalov sometimes plays, but not regularly, so it couldn't really be expected by Aronian. E3, B5, and C5. It's an interesting choice, this line by Aronian. I think this is a pretty interesting line for white. The idea is with C5, white is blocking the queen side. We can continue a bit. G6, B4. Sorry, B4. What white wants to do is he wants to play A4 and then try to open up the queen side. Very often we have interesting situations where a piece sacrifice is possible on B5. If we Topalov now plays A5, but if black plays in a somewhat passive fashion, let's say knight D7 for example, A4, rook B8. This is not good, but just to show you the point, white very often, he probably won't take right away, but very often he will later try to get a piece sacrifice in on B5 to get those 2 pawns. At the end, white will have B and C pawn, B4 and C5, and these pawns will be very dangerous in the end game. Very often, this is a game plan for white. Topalov does not want this situation. He right away goes for counterplay with A5. Very typical of his style. He's not a kind of sit and wait player. Yeah, Aronian took there. And here Topalov played an interesting move, knight E4, which is, all this is new. I think Aronian said that it was still known to him, but okay, it's always hard to tell what's true, what's invention, or what's a lie, to be honest, in those interviews. Okay, knight E4. Yeah, Aronian now plays something really extraordinarily. He takes and plays knight to G5. That's a really amazing choice. The reason why this is so enterprising is the move Queen D5. This knight is hanging. How do you protect it? Yeah, white actually only has he only has one move to really justify his play, and this is F4. This is what he did. If he goes H4 instead, then black can, amongst others, play this, and this cannot be white's idea. Yeah, his whole center is crumbling now, and the knight on H3 is simply ridiculous. This cannot be the idea. What is his idea? He played F4. This might look normal, but has a very, very big problem. Let's see. H6, knight H3, black takes, and now black can play bishop takes D4. Really a shocking development. The idea is, of course, if white takes, and of course he must take now, what else? There is E3, and we have a discovered attack on the rook. So has Aronian blundered here? Yeah, probably not. He's taking some enormous risk here, I guess. Bishop takes, queen D2. So let's look at this. White has given up an exchange for one pawn. He's got this a5 pawn after all. And this is an important pawn. It's not like this can be taken at any moment. White here has a very interesting position and compensation. If it's enough, I doubt it. And I think the players also had their doubts in the press conference. I couldn't see this press conference, unfortunately, but I think the situation is very, very difficult to assess. White also has the two bishops, of course, that can be very dangerous. Here there was a principal choice. Topalov played knight a6, which is probably okay. Another idea was, and this probably would have been my choice, I think, because I'm notoriously frightened of things. Sometimes e6 would have been probably my choice to make sure that d4, d5 is not happening quickly. And then maybe queen d5 later. It's very tough to analyze this position. White here may choose long castles, or king f2, also a move. Hard to say. I mean, white has some compensation, but is it enough? Tough to say. What he played, however, seems to be okay. He only is making a mistake later. Long castles, queen to d5, and now bishop g2. Everything else, yeah, is the only move that makes sense. The check, king b1, and here we come to the first critical position of the game. Here it seems that Topalov definitely had to play queen b4. Oops, he played that, but he definitely had to play queen b4 check, it seems. After that, I think white is struggling to justify compensation. One key point is that after king a1, he has the very strange move, king d7. Covering the c6 pawn with the king. After that, I really couldn't find anything sufficient for white. It's still an somewhat unclear situation. Let's say d5 takes, knight c7 takes, king c8. But ultimately here, I think black keeps his position together and probably will be on top. Still, lots of uncertainty in those lines, but it was better than Topalov's choice. He played this, d5, and now gave the check. The whole position is obviously very sharp and can be easily leading to a disaster. For example, if black plays this move here, queen to f6, bishop e4 here, for example, is exceptionally strong, intending bishop d4. Yeah, an innocent move like queen f6 will lead you into huge trouble. And d6, and white here has a fantastic position. This is something that probably is losing. c6 hangs, e7 hangs, and the long diagonal can be fatal. He played the check, and now after king b2, I think the next two moves really spell his fate. The position is very, very difficult to play, but still, I think long castles is simply too risky. The king is so exposed here that it ultimately costs black. Maybe short castles was better. It's difficult to get to the truth of the position without spending very long time. I think this is too dangerous. The d-pawn now advances. And after the capture now, the thing is definitely lost. I mean, those two moves were too much. I looked at knight c5 here, and I wasn't totally sure about this. Something like this looks very, very dangerous, and it is dangerous. But I wasn't really sure that this is that this here is like a win for white. White is definitely better, but I'm not sure if it is an easy win. Black's defensive idea is to move the f-pawn and then give the exchange back. White is better here, no doubt, but is he winning? Not totally clear to me. What's clear is in the game, after the capture and here the recapture, this attack here on c6 on the king side is too much. Black cannot defend this. Gave this check, king b1, check again. King c1, queen f6. A very important point is that here after queen f6 is that if we look at an alternate line here, let's say black plays something like c5 here, bishop c6, queen f6, d7, king c7, bishop b5. Here there's a funny line. Black can even give all these checks here. And white is still winning in this position. Black can try to trade, and now bishop a5 is killing him. The knight is also hanging. Something like this. Something like this is very nice. Attacking and the mate threat. Very funny line. Yeah, in the game we had queen f6, d7 check, king b7, bishop d4, queen e6, bishop h8, and Topalov resigned. Yeah, completing his somewhat disastrous start of this tournament. He certainly cannot be very much satisfied with this. 2 losses, and it really didn't look good. He seems to be out of shape somehow in this event. So after 2 rounds, we have Caruana with 2 points, Aronian with a win, 1.5 point, and Carlsen, Nakamura on 50%. We have Carlsen playing Caruana in the 3rd round, so a very essential game. Carlsen definitely will try to win the game to get near the leader, and even catch him with the win. Very important game. So let's look forward to that. Next round coverage coming tomorrow. Thanks for watching.